Earl threw it very nicely.
Well, that's going to have to get David Earl's confidence way up. I mean, St. Mary's are coming up on the outside receivers and playing them very tight. And you see Gus Karazak is dropping back number 43, but Earl just throws a strike. Boom, right there to Kelvin Sander. And Gus Karazak was not quite deep enough in his zone or over far enough. That's a nice, tight spiral by David Earl to show the St. Mary's team that he in fact will throw the football down the field.
You know, he's got all the skills to do it. You could see his throwing arm and a nice release there, and he's also a terrific runner. He just hasn't put it all together. 1st and 10, Saskatchewan on a nice drive. 2 first downs on the ground, and that one through the air to Kevin Sander, who was their leading receiver over the season with 21 catches. Sander is the man in motion, farthing wide to the left. And they go to the fullback closer. He slides off one tackle, but not another one. Brought down in the backfield by number 14, Don McIntosh.
Don McIntosh is the inside halfback on the right side. You're going to see number 14 come into your picture right there. This is a nice tackle. Boom.
Really a shoestring tackle. That's about all he had, with the strings on the shoes of Polzer, but McIntosh did the job, and as a result, a loss of 4. It's 2nd down and 14 for Saskatchewan. Right at the 35-yard line. Probably not in Giebert's range yet. Let's see if they try to pick up just a portion of it and get in field goal range. He wants farthing deep, then he throws underneath, and he's got a completion. Olsen with a catch, and Olsen with a first down. Earl looked very sharp there. Looked at farthing all the way.
This is perfect because it was Ken Walcott and Cecil Curry were double covered on Dan Farthing, and then coming underneath Mark Olsen, and Earl makes the proper decision. Great pass for David Earl.
Now, did you see who made the tackle? That was David Houston. He's the cornerback on the other side. He had to come all the way across.
That's right. He has a man coverage.
Tough play, and he wasn't able to make it in time there. 1st and 10, Saskatchewan. A good drive right at the 15-yard line. Earl stops and throws, and it's unthrown. He wanted Dan Farthing. Farthing was actually pretty well covered by Andre Williams, who's now moved over to cornerback. Andre Williams on Dan Farthing.
Well, it's interesting. You know, one of the things that St. Mary's does not want to do on defense is play a lot of zone coverage. They haven't played it much all year, and they like to think that they can match up against anybody. Now, when Trevor Burke was out of the football game, it seemed that when Cecil Curry came in, they decided they were going to go a little bit zone, and they actually doubled up on the zone on Dan Farthing. That's when they were able to hit Mark Olsen underneath. So St. Mary's wants to try and stay in man coverage.
David Houston has moved to rover. Andre Williams moves to corner. 2nd and 10 for Saskatchewan. 7:52 to play in the first. Earl throws quickly. He's got Farthing, and let's see what he can do with it. Farthing, 5-yard line, inside the 5 to the 3. Brought down by David Houston, but not before a first down.
Well, Saskatchewan like to spread all the receivers out all over the field, and it gives David Earl a big selection of people, and he wants to get it to number 10, Dan Farthing, who was playing slot back earlier this year, but they put him out a wide receiver because he suffered a little bit of a shoulder injury, and they thought they could protect him a little bit better if he didn't have to block people inside.
Drive began at the 31-yard line, and it's now at the 4. 1st and goal for Saskatchewan. Olsen and Sander in motion. Here's Simchuk. Simchuk up the middle, and Simchuk is going to slide off and get in for the touchdown. Stopped initially, no whistle, and it's 6-0 Saskatchewan.
Wow, an impressive drive if you're a University of Saskatchewan fan from the 31-yard line all the way for the score. And there's his patented cartwheel, Rob Simchuk. Power football here, Rob Simchuk. Now, they don't quite wrap. It looks like he stopped right there, but they don't wrap his legs. He keeps his legs moving, and he slides off for the touchdown.
His patented cartwheel might be a little bit rusty. He didn't score a touchdown this year. Rob Simchuk gets into the end zone when it counts.
But he scored last week, and that's when he first showed it to the nation.
And if he looks a little older than some of the other players, there's good reason. He is. He's 27 years old, the oldest player on the field today. Saskatchewan has a much older team than St. Mary's. Reader's convert attempt is up and good, and Saskatchewan leads it 7-0. Yes, it was a drive balanced with some running, Simchuk, some passing, and then Simchuk took it the rest of the way. Saskatchewan scores first. They lead it 7-0. Welcome back to Skydome. Saskatchewan leads at 7-0, but they did it without their #1 running back, Dwayne Dimtrishan. Gord Miller, what's the story with Dwayne?
Well, it smiles all around on the Saskatchewan bench, Michael, because Dimtrishan got his bell rung, but he's okay. He's going to come back and play in the ball game. Give Saskatchewan credit, though. Without their #1 running back, they come down and score the game's first touchdown, so everyone's pretty happy down on the green and white side of the field.
Dimtrishan will be back, but he won't be back until they get the ball back. St. Mary's will get it, and if there's a key thing so far in this game, as Reeder gets set to kick it off, it was the defensive hold by Saskatchewan. St. Mary's returned that punt in the Saskatchewan territory, but they ran only 2 plays. Here's Sean Mongie from his 11-yard line. And Saskatchewan gets down better that time. First guy down was number 40, Elaine Francis, and the return is only 14, but there is a penalty marker down. I'd imagine that Saskatchewan left early, judging from where it is. McCutcheon is an important player on that team.
19 Saskatchewan. First down.
Unnecessary roughness is the call against Saskatchewan on Phil Giebert. And the unnecessary roughness came way upfield. That flag was at midfield.
Well, Phil Giebert is a very aggressive football player, and a little bit of extracurricular activity on his behalf after the ball was kicked. As we take a look at Phil in the defensive huddle. An All-Canadian in 1989, did not make the team this year. Nevertheless, he still had 4 interceptions, was a #1 tackler in that Husky defense with 36, and is finishing up his Master's in Business Administration at U of S.
In the true sense of the word, it was a scoring drive balanced with running from Simchuk and some nice passing from Earl. Key receptions by Farthing, Sander, and Olsen. It was 10 plays, 4 of them on the ground, 6 through the air. It ate up 4 minutes and 44 seconds. Most of all, it gave Saskatchewan a 7-0 lead. And when you talk about the young players and how emotional they are about a game like this, if you're a coach, you really got to love the fact that your team scores first.
Oh, you have to. And you take a look at Saskatchewan's defense as well in this situation. You talked about how many years experience they have. If you take them all as a group, they have 4 1/4 years experience on average on defense, where St. Mary's offensively only has 3 years. They were in this game a year ago. They know what to expect. And sometimes they are going to come out initially in this game and be ready to play. St. Mary's still might be a little bit in awe of the place, but they're going to settle down. But then again, Chris Flynn has only had the ball for one series.
Okay, I'm Michael Landsberg along with Jamie Bone. Gord Miller is on the field, and Leif Pettersson and Larry Haler are in the Sightlines restaurant. Let's go there now.
Well, Michael, you know, it's interesting. In any game I've seen quarterback David Earl play, if he gets off to a good start, he can be in for a great afternoon, and that was a beautiful drive he put together.
Yeah, a great drive. I think he came out and made a great pass on the sprint when they double covered outside, and he hit the receiver inside. Double up on Farthing. He was patient enough and poised enough to come off inside and throw the ball and force the safety to come up and make the play. And I think one of the things that's happened early, obviously, is Burke has been hurt. They've had to move Houston 25 into the middle, and they've had to move Williams out to the corner. And when they got the touchdown, they went into a no-back set, and they forced the safety coverage on Farthing, and they didn't get it. Yeah. Houston didn't pick it up quickly enough, and what happened is Earl made a great read, hit the one open guy, and, you know, got the big first down that led to the touchdown. Great confidence builder for David.
Boy, is it ever. And you know what I like is the quarterback, he spread the ball around. Sander, Farthing, Olsen, they all touched it. So Saskatchewan, Mike, they're off to a great start.
That's a good look at the view that they get of the field in the Sightlines restaurant. Really is a neat place, this Skydome. It's the only place I know where you can sit down and have something to eat and watch the game. As you look at Rob McCutcheon helped off the field, and he's really getting some help. So McCutcheon certainly has to be a question mark for the rest of this game. Okay, back to the action. Flynn with his first completion, or pretty close to one. Matt Nealon dropped the ball. Iwanger was there, provided pretty good coverage. Now we'll keep an eye on Chris Flynn very closely. He's got a shoulder injury. There's no question about it. Saskatchewan defense lines up like this, the best in the nation. Scott Hunseth, Kalmakoff, and Dutton, just a great defensive line. Kalmakoff can dominate a center, especially a smaller one. Mamer led the nation in sacks with 7. Lee Paslowski was all-Canadian, and Bistro also a good pass rusher. And here's the secondary. Brown, Iwanger on the corners, Dewar, Huel, and Giebert in the middle. And they average over 4 years of experience. Screen pass from Flynn to Mongie, but it's well read by Saskatchewan. Mongie will have to try to do it on his own, and he's not going to do it. 4 plays, no first downs for St. Mary's.
Well, you know, we talked coming into this broadcast that one thing that Saskatchewan on defense will not be intimidated by would be Chris Flynn. And the reason they would not be is because they played against some pretty good quarterbacks in their conference this year. You see the screen, they set it up, but they do a nice job downfield on keeping the proper leverage. You see Iwanger comes up here, and then he forces him back inside, and there's just nowhere to run.
Now, that was a play that Western had a lot of trouble with Mongie on the screen, as maybe Larry Haler will talk about why they had trouble with it, but clearly Saskatchewan didn't there. They had the benefit of seeing what Mongie did against Western last week in the films. It seems though Saskatchewan is really ready to play. They have the right game plan, at least they have defensively so far, and offensively. Sagan's second kick, his first one wasn't good, but this one is. Brown will have some room to return it. He's got some speed and some room to the outside. Errol Brown, he can fly, and he's out over the 40 line to the 37-yard line. Looked like a bigger return was on the way than was.
Well, Errol Brown, they want to try and keep the ball away from him because he had 3 touchdowns this year. The longest one was 80 yards. This is a nice catch on the fly. They're trying to kick it away from him. But he's got great speed. He's in the Canada Games in the 100 meters and a nice tackle.
By Trevor Burke. So that's big news all around. Not only did he make what was a saving tackle, but also he's back in the game.
But Trevor Burke still looks a little tender. He seems to be on his toes out there when he's getting back in the defensive secondary.
You may not mind if your quarterback's a bit tender. You don't want a rover who's tender, and Burke seems to be right now. First and 10 Saskatchewan, 37-yard line. Big hole, Ciau barrels up the middle, and he's got 8. It'll be second down and 2.
Well, I'll tell you what, right now Saskatchewan are getting off of the football. They are just getting off and getting into people and creating vertical seams in the field. And Ciau does a nice job of reading that and cutting back inside.
It's got to be a big boost for a team when you've got a fifth-year player, 27 years old, that can move into the starting tailback position. Ciau plays fullback when Dentrition's in there, but he's not really a fullback or a tailback, one of those tweeners. And he's a tailback right now, and second down and a little bit less than 2. 5:09 to play in the first quarter. Here's Ciau, first down. First down real easy. I mean, he was 8 yards into the secondary before anybody touched him.
I'll tell you, they're just doing a heck of a job right now, blowing people off the ball. Rod Lesmeister. Now, Rod McCutcheon is out of there on St. Mary's defense. He's just going to come straight at you. And then Gus Karadakis over pursues it, and the center blocks him off, Ray Weens. And then Ciau with a good vision cuts it back inside.
Now, last week, St. Mary's did a very nice job of stopping the Western trap game. They were strong in the middle. So far, it's a different look from Saskatchewan, and it has certainly worked very well for the Huskies. Saskatchewan, that is. Right at midfield, first and 10, Ciau. It's a little tougher going this time, but he still picks up a little more than 5. It'll be second down in the short 5.
And you can tell Brian Towers would be very happy for this to continue, to have his offense pound away at St. Mary's, not to allow Chris Flynn to get a chance to stay on the field and make things happen. I mean, the only way to stop Chris Flynn is not give him the football, keep him on the sidelines.
Well, he's only run 4 plays. He's thrown 2 passes. And he has 1 completion on the screen pass. Second down and 5. Everybody out of the backfield. St. Mary's comes with a rush, but they get it to Farthing, and he should make a first down. Dan Farthing, and he's going to try to turn the corner. Boy, you saw his athletic ability. There was no room there.
Well, when we talked about this at the beginning of the broadcast and all the motion, and when you have a lot of motion and you're a man team, you have to do one thing. You have to be very skillful in bumping people. You have to say, off, off, we got to go back to zone. Karazakis was man coverage on Dan Farthing, if you can believe that. That's a great matchup if you're a Saskatchewan Huskies fan. So they're going to have to do some things differently on that Husky defense. Or the St. Mary's side of the ball, they have to go to zone coverage. You cannot cover Dan Farthing with an inside linebacker.
David Houston's right in his face now. It's first and 10, 33-yard line. And here's Polzer, the fullback, up the middle. And he's brought down. Brian Johnson was the first man through. Now, UTEC's team not starting the game the way they wanted to. Although last week they didn't start very well against Western. They were down 14-0 before the crowd had even filed its way in. So he has that to draw on. If you're watching UTEC for the first time, he doesn't really play much of a role in the on-field coaching. He leaves that up to his offensive coordinator, Bill Robinson, and his defensive coordinator as well. Second and 5. Ciau in behind Polzer. He follows him, then cuts left, and he is short of the first down.
I'll tell you what, St. Mary's defensive line right now is on roller skates. I mean, they cannot stop the surge of Saskatchewan's offensive line. They're not doing anything fancy in that play. That's just push everybody back and create some type of a diagonal seam and let the running back read it.
Third down, less than a yard to go for Saskatchewan. They already lead at 7-0 with 2.5 to play in the first quarter. Earl, they pitch it deep. That's an interesting call, and not a very good one. I'm shocked that they would go with such a deep starting play.
I am too, because they were doing such a good job of getting people off of the ball. You just have to power it. You've got big people up front. You've got Brian Eltham, 270. Ryan Russell, 250, 265. Les Meister. You take a look and try to pull the guard around, but see what a nice job there by Brian Johnson, number 65, the outside linebacker. He just splits the seam and gets in the back.